Hello chess friends and welcome to Art of Chess channel and welcome back to our How to Beat the London System series. So in this series we're trying to battle it out with the black pieces against this unpleasant, really annoying London system setup. And today we're doing a different sideline. Today we're battling it out against the so-called accelerated London system where white is delaying a certain move or gets this bishop out in the early stage of the game, wants to go maybe into the Jobava-London system setup, maybe also into the common London system setup with c3, d4, e3 and similar stuff. So in my opinion, this accelerated London system has to be studied deeper as a special video because it's really a different story. It's a different side and it's a different opportunity for white because basically what white is trying to do is to trick you with this delayed move order, and he's trying to go into normal structures that he's probably familiar with. So let's see now what's all about. What are my recommendations here against this really unpleasant accelerated London system? So white starts with the move d4. We're playing the move knight to f6, and now white goes, rather than to go with the move knight to c3, if he goes knight to c3 immediately, then we're going of course obviously with the move d5 because he already with the move knight to c3 showed the cards that he could maybe go into the Jobava-London system with the move bishop to f4. Now when he's playing bishop to f4, it's a little bit different because I would not recommend you here to go with the move d5 because after knight to c3 he doesn't have to play the move knight to c3. He can go into the normal structures of the London system with c3, e3, knight to f3 and similar stuff. So it's very important to play now the correct move order. My recommendation after move bishop to f4 is to go now with the move e6. And if he goes knight to f3, I've already created a special video about this particular sideline. Here's the link of our London system preparation with the black pieces. Please check it out. Please dive into this opening theory really deep because it's always a little bit different. If you are making a tiny little inaccuracy, your opponent could get into familiar territory and you could get out of your prep. So that's why with the move knight to f3, I think we can go into normal structures with bishop to e7, and now after move e3 we hit the bishop immediately. That's a special video that I've created. Please check it out. We have covered this particular sideline too. So after move bishop to f4 and e6, what your opponent could do is now to go into this accelerated sort of Jobava-London system with the move knight to c3. Now, I would not recommend you to go with the move d5 because he will probably go into this line that I would not suggest you to play with the move knight to b5. Then he's hitting immediately your pawn on c7. Then you have to play again the move knight to a6 and similar stuff. Later, you'd kick away the knight with c6. Then you're trying again probably to play the move c5. It's not wrong, as I also mentioned before, but I would recommend you to do something else. After move e6 and knight to c3 that your opponent is playing now, I would recommend you now to go into very aggressive methods with the move bishop to b4. Now, our main goal is to play the move knight to d5, or at least to control here the e4 and d5 score. Also, in some lines, we're trying c5 with queen to a5. But what I never liked when I played the London system, or maybe the accelerated or the Jobava-London system, is that my bishop, although it's a powerful bishop on f4, is a little bit misplaced. Because now with the move bishop to b4, we're going into, it's of course not the same, but we're going into ideas, if you're familiar maybe with the Nimzo-Indian. With the Nimzo-Indian, we're trying, of course, to pin the bishop. We're trying to create structural weaknesses by playing the move bishop to c3. Then he has a double pawn on the c file. Then he has maybe the c4 as a weakness. He has maybe the e4 square as a weakness. And the cool part about this setup is that your opponent already played the bishop's move. So usually when we are going into similar position like in the Nimzo-Indian, your opponent still has a certain flexibility to play the move bishop to g5. You know, he didn't play with the bishop so far, but now when the bishop is on f4, usually we have some tactical goals like bishop to c3, and then also with knight to d5, as I said, and also with the move knight to e4. One of the preparations to play the move e4 here for white is to go with queen to d3. So he's trying desperately now to get the e4 goal. If you allow him to do that without any compensation, I guarantee you white will have a beautiful, beautiful game. So that's why we're battling it out in the beginning against the e4 goal. And the instructive game that I saw in this particular sideline is a beautiful game played by Hans-Moke Niemann against Jobava. And Jobava, I think, really destroyed here Hans-Moke Niemann's Jobava-London system setup. I would not call it anymore the Jobava-London system because it's a different sideline now, but usually, as I said, in the Jobava-London, you're playing, of course, the move knight to c3, bishop to f4, and d4. Now, as I said, we're battling it out against the move e4, and Jobava played in a beautiful, beautiful way. So now, my recommendation is to go with the move knight to c6. What should white do? If white continues now with the move e4, as I said, that's now the main goal. Now we play a very aggressive bishop to c3. Queen to c3 obviously cannot be played because then the queen is deflected from the pawn on e4. We take out the pawn. So what your opponent has to do now is to play, of course, b takes c3. But now the fun starts. We're playing a beautiful move d6, which gives us flexibility to play now here the move e5. After continuation knight to f3 that white plays, now we play a beautiful queen to e7, again with the preparation to play the move e5. That's now the main goal. And let's see now white's opportunities. If he goes with e5 immediately, then it's not so good. Then we have always the flexibility to go with the move knight to d5. If he plays here d5 immediately, then of course we can immediately take it out. And the issue for white is that he cannot recapture with the pawn because the king is lined up here against the queen, so it's not working. So look at this. As I said, after move a knight to c6 that here Jobava played against Hans-Moke Niemann, Hans went into this aggressive method with the move a3. But now, as I said, we simply play bishop takes c3 after queen to c3. Now we have a beautiful square for a knight to d5. And look at this. That's the way to go. As I said, if he tries here b takes c3 or something, then we can go again into the structures with d6, queen to e7 and e5, and you're pretty solid here. So I think this is now the main goal. In my opinion, nothing gained here also for white. If we get the e5 goal now from black's perspective, it's perfectly fine. But here Hans-Moke Niemann, as I said, took with the queen, and now we have this jump knight to d5. Your opponent will eventually lose also his dark square bishop, his main strength, so nothing gained here from white's perspective. So in the game, queen to d2 was played by Hans-Moke Niemann, and believe it or not, Hans-Moke Niemann is a top GM. He's also, he created many studies about the Jobava-London system, also about the London system, but he makes already a mistake in move 7. Hans-Moke Niemann is almost busted here, which is really, really crazy. He gets out of prep probably here, because here queen to f6 was played by Jobava, beautiful move. And here, look at this, the pawn on d4 is hanging, bishop on f4 is hanging. So from this point on, black is taking over. Look at this, bishop to g5, queen to d4 was played, and here, in my opinion, black should be much, much better. The evaluation is plus 1.5 in black's favor, so nothing gained here from white's perspective. The correct move was actually here to play the move queen to g3, hitting also the pawn on c7, hitting also the pawn on g7. But now after queen to e5, queen to f6, bishop to e5, we take, and now after queen to g6, I think this is a solid game also for black. White has a messed up pawn structure, has now, I think, also to trade off the queens. The e5 is a long-term weakness. Our powerful knight is there on d5, so this is, I think, also a beautiful, beautiful continuation for black. It's an equal game, but I think this is also a position that white doesn't want to get from the Jobava-London system, from the accelerated London system. He's probably not satisfied with the outcome of this particular opening line. So as I said, let's go back. After move bishop to b4 that we played, he can play, of course, queen to d3. Now we play knight to c6. Very important move, a3. We hit. Don't hesitate here. Don't be frightened here to give up the bishop for knight in an early stage of the game, because if it plays, of course, b takes c3, as I said, our main goal is queen to e7, d6, e5, and you're, I think, perfectly fine. So let's go back. One of the other opportunities after move bishop to b4 can be immediately here to play the idea bishop a3. I've seen it also many times, but now again bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and now we can even go with the move c5 immediately. So c5 is also perfectly fine, because after something like d takes c5 we can play immediately queen to a5. Look at this, we're hitting now both of these pawns. He can of course try queen to d3, but now b6. We don't want to pick up just a lousy pawn on c5. We want to get our bishop out on a6. This is the way to go. This is now the most progressive way to proceed. Look at this. He can play c takes b6, but now we play bishop to a6. He has to step back. We get our knight on e4. Look at this. We have a beautiful, beautiful attacking flow. If he goes, of course, to d4, then we have knight to c6. So now he's getting punished for this lack of development. And although white has a bishop pair here on the board, he has to play e3. He has to go somewhere with the bishop. He has to still develop the knight. We can play knight to c6, rook to c8, hitting further here the pawn on c3. For instance, we play knight to e4. He's trying, of course, queen to e3. Now we pick up here the pawn on b6 because he cannot take. He loses here decisive material after queen to c3, because after queen to c3, okay, our rook is hanging, but now he has to do something. And of course, look at this, queen to a1 is simply winning the game. If he goes here again, queen takes a1 comes with the check. That's now the issue, and the game is over here, I think, for white. So look at this, nothing is working here. After knight to e4, queen to e3, a takes b6. He could have tried, of course, f3, but now we pick it up. He's trying maybe to trade off the queens, nothing wrong, but now look at this. After something like bishop to f1, rook to c8 is here perfectly fine. Our knight is powerful on c3. This another knight will always find a way into the game. Knight to c6, maybe knight to d4 later. In my opinion, the c2 pawn is a long-term weakness. So again, black should be much better. Again, the evaluation is more than 1 point here for black. So it's crazy how you get out of this mess in an early stage of the game. So let's follow one game. After move c5, we have here Janaszak against Chigaev. Chigaev here with the black pieces. After move c5, found here beautiful opportunity again with queen to a5. D takes c5 was played, now queen to c3, bishop to d2. Here Chigaev took now both of these pawns, developed simply, played now d5, has now powerful control of the center with these two pawns. In the game, kingside castling was played, castling, queen to e2, and now after move e5, that's the goal. Again, the move e5 that we have talked about also previously in the line. Look at this, bishop comes out, e4 is a threat, d4 in some lines is an opportunity. Still c2 very weak, so here the evaluation is even 3 points in black's favor. Very wild stuff. So as I said, let's go back here. When we play bishop to f4, bishop to b4, he tries a3, don't hesitate. It's okay, he has a messed up pawn structure, but now we can play c5. This is the way to go. So let's see different opportunities again for white. We play bishop to b4 again. He's trying now calm move e3. Now I think it would be very risky to take out now the knight on c3, because here I think white has always the opportunity with the support of the bishop to create madness here in the center of the board. Now after move e3, my recommendation is now to go with this move, knight to d5 that we have talked about in the beginning. The knight is pinned, the bishop is attacked. Your opponent has to react. He has to play something like, I don't know, knight to e2, but now we simply hit the bishop, and that's, I think, perfectly fine. Although it's still a struggle. I'm not saying you're winning the game immediately because you have reached this position, but now after something like, I don't know, knight takes f4, we can of course play d5. He's trying maybe knight to d3. We simply take it out, and now after castling, he has again this weakness, in my opinion, nothing gained. Also, what I've seen many times, for instance, there is a beautiful game between Jobava against Vakidov. Vakidov here with the black pieces, tried here kingside castling after move a3. Now we keep the bishop on the board, because if we play, of course, bishop takes c3, then we recapture with the knight. Eventually we have a weakness on e5, so now retreating with the bishop is perfectly fine. He's trying maybe the move d5, but now I think with rook to e8 we can get out of this mess. Look at this, the e file is now our main tactical goal. He can of course try something like d takes e6. We play d takes e6, and now maybe if the queens are off the board, nothing wrong with this position, because now we are continuing the game with the bishop pair. The game is simplified. f4 is weak. We will eventually get our pieces out. White has also problems how to develop, so also nothing gained here from white's perspective. So it's playable, I think, as I said. now it comes to you. Now you have to still struggle for a win. Now who is the better player will eventually win the game, but I think you can really be satisfied with the outcome in the early stage of the game. So let's go back here again. After the move bishop to b4, I found also instructive game. After move knight to d5, after move e3 here, we hitting the bishop, also the knight to e2. As I said, again, knight to f4, d5 here. It's Rojcek against Votava here with the black pieces. Here white tried to move g3, black simply developed c6. We have now kingside castling, and after move knight to d3 here, again the same problem, structural weaknesses here. Queen to a5 is coming, queen to e1 had to be played, and now black develops again this bishop on a6 here in a beautiful way. c4 was played, queen takes a1, rook takes e1, and now here after bishop to a6 here, black should equalize the game immediately. In the game, knight to b4 was played by white, but now after bishop to c4, knight to c6, f5, here black should be perfectly fine again. We're trying, of course, king to f7, and then hit the knight. The knight has to step back again. The opponent c2 is very weak, so nothing gained again here from white's perspective. So in my opinion, this is a good concept, good strategy. Let's repeat it again from the beginning. So when your opponent is going into this accelerated London system ideas, from move knight to f6 with bishop to f4, my recommendation is to go with the move e6. If he tries now knight to c3, pin him immediately with the concept knight to e4, knight to d5, then also in some lines with with c5, knight to c6, queen to a5, you have huge pressure against the knight in c3. If he tries here queen to d3, then as I said, my recommendation is to play a very tricky move, knight to c6, with the preparation to play e5, d6, and then e5. So that's now the main goal, breaking and entering here in the center. I guarantee you have good opportunities against these types of structures, against these types of positions. So as I said, if you are bothered by some other sidelines that we haven't covered so far here in our series, please check it out. We have covered now first the normal London system, then some other ideas of the Jobava-London system. Here's the link of our playlist. Please check it out, because these videos I think have to be watched combined in order to have a really great grip in every sideline, in every possibility in the Jobava-London, but also in the London, but also in the accelerated London system. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed today's study. As I said, here's the link again, how to beat the London system with the black pieces. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.